We're gonna be safe and sound tonight.
Hello everyone, today we're talking about Marxism and the Hegelian dialectic. Now that sounds kind of scary, but really what it is, it's often referred to as problem, reaction, solution. So your agenda is Marxism, and then your problem is a terrible economy, right, and poverty. Your reaction is capitalism is the problem, capitalism must be eliminated, and your solution is Marxism. So you attain your agenda by this process, and all you have to do is create the thesis. You have to create the problem, which is chronic poverty throughout the country. So how do you create chronic poverty throughout the country? Well, you destabilize. If you watch the Red Pill history, you destabilize the economy using central banking. You get rid of gold, which gets rid of it disempowers the productivity of the nation, and it empowers the state. And the state can buy up assets. The state can push up the price of real estate, especially in these areas. So if you look at these areas, this is the most expensive parts of the United States. And keep in mind, this is pulled from an article that was shocked to see these real estate prices down 25% year over year. So they have dropped 25% in just 12 months. This is their current level. Now you're talking about San Francisco, the most Marxist liberal place in the United States. New York City, Boston, Silicon Valley, San Jose, Oakland, Los Angeles, Washington D.C., San Diego, right? The only one in this top 10 really, maybe Miami would be the only one that's like relatively free market, relatively right wing. So if you look at this, right, all of these are 1800 and above, and Kapistan would be way down at the bottom at 300, maybe even 200. I don't know if we can get below 200, but under 200 would be tough. Let's see. How about this one? Sorry, I have a bunch of memes here. Failure for Marxists is to be given a city or even a state to test their theories because they know their society will fail. It is an ideology which requires the total dominance and slavery of the unwilling to barely sustain itself. Meanwhile, success for ANCAPs is to be given as little as 100 undeveloped rural acres to test their theories because they know their society will thrive and blossom. It is an ideology which does not need or desire the submission or participation of those who are not interested in it. So this is the real difference between Marxism and the extreme right wing. The extreme right wing does not need to make anyone submit to it. The extreme right wing does not need the participation of anyone outside of its borders. It can have a little enclave. 100 acres would be kind of light for a whole city or a whole country. It'd be a little on the small side. But 1,000, you could easily do it. You'd easily make it happen with 1,000. In arcology, a 100 acres is actually quite significant. But if you build vertically, but not everyone might want to build that high. Admittedly, in the arcology video, it's a 30-story building, and so the rooftop would be pretty crowded. The indoors, the interior itself would not be because of the vertical layering, but the green rooftop would be quite crowded in that scenario. I think 12 to 15 stories might be a better option. Here's another one. This one is very sarcastic. Freedom is having all of your property, your home, your savings, and the property of your community stolen by the state. Freedom is only being allowed to work for the state at a wage they set if they even decide to pay you at all. Freedom is not having free speech or free association or the ability to start an organization or the ability to earn and save income. Freedom is being spied on by secret police and military personnel and living in fear of being labeled an enemy of the state and thus murdered at any time. Marxism is freedom, they say, and the state is their god, which is true. They read the Communist Manifesto and they read Marxism like it's a religious text, like it's the Bible. They call it studying theory. You have to read your theory, right? It's like It's like Sunday school. I mean, it really is like a religion. And the Bible has a prophecy, right, that Christ will return. Christ will return. He will defeat the government of man, and he will build up God's kingdom, heaven on earth, throughout the entire earth, across the entire earth. And he will be the King of Kings, is what the Bible says. In the same vein, Marxism says that capitalism will have a crisis, and then throughout that crisis, the proletariat will rise up and destroy capitalism and bring about Marxism. And the problem, reaction, solution of the Marxists is them trying to bring about the proletarian revolution, trying to bring about the Marxist solution by creating poverty. It is manufactured poverty. In my city, in my suburban area, they have not manufactured housing since the 1990s. That's the last time they have built housing. Everyone asks all the time, can we build housing? Can we build housing? And the state always says no. The zoning authorities, all of these bureaucrats always say no because they are working on the Marxist problem, reaction, solution. And since World War II, after World War II, which is when the fascists took over and when the Marxists took over and the socialists took over, they wrote into law that no building above 3 stories is allowed to be built. And this is a city of over 1 million people. There are over 1 million residents in my city, and it is illegal to build above 3 stories. Now, what the fuck sense does that make? You have to ask yourself, why does this rule exist? Why do people even allow this to happen? And the answer is to reduce supply. The answer is to minimize supply, and it is to crush any kind of market solution to increasing housing prices and to increasing land prices. Because when you build vertically, you suppress the price of land. You suppress the price of real estate when you build vertically. So of course, if you want to have this proletariat revolution, you have to keep real estate very, very high. You have to make sure that real estate is extremely expensive. And you make sure real estate is extremely expensive by reducing the supply, by legally capping the supply and suppressing the supply as much as possible. Our ecology is letting the productive machinery of industrial society run wild and flourish and blossom and push down the price of real estate to the price of production, to the cost of production. If you look at every single product in society that is allowed to be open to free market competition, that product, the price of it gets pushed down to the cost of production. It comes near the cost of production. Except for real estate. Real estate is wildly out of control. It's destroying everything, especially because it's a necessity. So real estate is a necessity, and therefore the government takes it over and increases its price and hurts everyone. Healthcare is a necessity, so government takes it over, increases its price, and hurts everyone. Education is a necessity, so government takes it over, increases its price, hurts everyone. And now look at this bullshit with COVID. Now it's destroying the restaurant industry. It's destroying all of your entertainment industries. All of these industries are collapsing, right? Because all of these people are forced to pay into the incredible real estate prices. They're forced to pay into their incredible healthcare prices. They're forced to pay their outrageous property taxes. And it's illegal for them to have any income. The government has made it illegal for them to have income. And they have all of these huge expenses, inflated expenses, that the government has spent decades creating that they still have to pay, or else them and their family become homeless. So this is the problem, reaction, solution. This is all intentional, and they have created every crisis of capitalism in an attempt to destroy capitalism. So this is probably the quote I hate more than anything. From each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. Now, this is just a recipe for corruption. It's a recipe for slavery. If someone has an ability to work 40 hours a week, does that mean we should enslave them and give all of their money to someone who claims to have anxiety, who claims to have depression, who claims to need all of these things? Some whiny bitch, some whiny lazy bitch gets all of the income of that hard work, that poor laborer that Marxists claim to adore so much, they claim to have a bleeding heart for. That's bullshit. That's PR. It's propaganda. Fuck you. You don't care about the worker. See, this is why the media and the left call you a racist, incel, white supremacist fascist if you have a problem with your tax slavery. You are now a runaway slave to them. This is the worst thing in the world. And your life and your lifetime of service no longer have any value. So when you're at work, when you're earning a wage, you are serving the community. That is community service, okay? That is commendable. And I don't care if you get paid for it. It's still commendable and it's still respectable. But, you know, Marxists don't give a shit about that. They don't have any fucking concept of that because they don't work. They don't serve the community. They don't participate in community service. So here's this one. You might remember this one. It's Old Economy Steve. It's a really old meme. When is this one from? Maybe like 2011 or something. But anyway, this is before socialism took over, or before the embezzlement of the oligarchy really destroyed the country. The housing prices really went out of control and decoupled from wages. This is in the 70s and 80s, really. 60s, 70s, and 80s. Graduated from college, gets hired. Followed the American dream, did not wake up yet. When I was in college, my summer job paid the tuition. Tuition was $400, which is true. Tuition was actually that cheap. You could, I forgot, someone did the math once, and they said in 1970, something like that, it would take 2 months worth of working at minimum wage to pay your college tuition for the year, which is insane to think about, but it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, like, the teacher is the main expense for a college, so why is college this expensive? If you have 20 students paying one teacher, it should not be that expensive for the students, correct? But the profit rate of universities is unbelievable, really unbelievable. I did a video on that already. It was like 15,000%. Maybe lower than that because I was going off of a student teacher salary, so it could be like around 5,000%. But still, 5,000%. I don't think any industries come close besides like hospitals and pharmaceuticals. It's really an unacceptable level of profit. So anyway, I'm not going to read the rest of these because it doesn't make for that great of a video. But here's another one. This is mocking Time magazine. This is like this is showing the problem, right? So it's mocking Time magazine, which was mocking the poverty of millennials. So this is all created. This is a manufactured problem. Your suffering, your financial suffering, is manufactured by the government. And to say, oh, it's manufactured by the private sector, it's manufactured by the private sector. Well, guess what? The private sector is a dynamic group of individuals. There's no singular agenda, right? Like, Elon Musk has a different agenda than Jeff Bezos, who has a different agenda than your local restaurant owner, who has a different agenda than a farmer, who has a different agenda than a homesteader, who has a different agenda than someone who has a tree nursery, right? Or a real nursery or a daycare. All of these people are different individuals with different goals who will act differently within the market. And someone or some group of people will step up to solve these problems. Like myself, for example. I'm a great example, aren't I? So me or 100 other people or 20,000 other people, I can educate those people and say, hey, look, this real estate issue is bringing us all down. It's dragging down everyone. And here's a great solution to it. Here's a way to fix it all. And all these people can come together and say, wow, you know what? This guy is right. We're going to start a corporation and we're going to tackle this issue by building hexagons. And as we build hexagons, the price of rent for the whole country is going to come down by 20, 30, 50, 80%. And heal the whole system. The whole system nationwide gets healed. Like a wave of calm and like that release of pressure. It's like a pressure valve that just gets released across the whole nation. And the government prevents these things from happening. The whole job of the government is to prevent innovation from happening. Because we don't want those GDP numbers to go down, and we don't want to mess up our problem reaction solution that we've worked so hard for so many decades to set up. This is a very long-term goal for them, to make you poor as fuck, to make you destitute and homeless. If they gave a shit about the working class, don't you think they would adopt a UBI? Don't you think they would set that up? And think of how disgusting the lack of UBI is, right? We believe in equality under the law. We believe in justice, right? Lady Justice is wearing a blindfold because she can't tell the difference between one citizen or the other citizens. We are all equal under the law. So welfare is inequality under the law. Taxation and welfare is inequality under the law. UBI is equality under the law. If the left wing talks about equality so much, then they should be in support of UBI, because UBI is equality. But they're not, because it's against the Marxist agenda. It hurts the problem reaction solution. This is why it's suppressed. This is why no one can talk about it. Why Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard are like, you know, people gasp, like company gasps when you say those names, because they are going against the Marxist problem reaction solution. The poverty of this country is manufactured. It's artificial. It's created by the government. And the Federal Reserve and all this money printing and all this inequality is created by counterfeiting money and giving it to the politically connected. Then the politically connected sweep in and buy up all of the housing in your area, and they buy up all of the land in your area. And those poor working suckers, those poor taxpayers, working taxpayer suckers, are destitute. And then the people who run the central banks and the people who run the media and the people who have set up this whole problem reaction solution system point at you, point at the victim and say, look, because of him, you have to give me more power. Because of him, you have to give me all property. Because of him, you have to sacrifice your freedoms to the Borg, to the mob, who's gonna stomp their boot on your face for the rest of time. This is all a fucking game to them, and they fucking love it. And if you believe in this Marxist bullshit, you're playing right into their hands. Okay? Private property is freedom. Marxism is slavery. Know the difference. If you want to see a new and better world come to fruition, as I do, then like, share, and subscribe. You can find an incredible amount of math, knowledge, and 3D renders by clicking on the channel name. And remember, we need you to help spread this vision across the internet for all to see and become familiar with. Let us build this new world together.